we're at the wheel. We're working on a Lockerbie kick wheel. As you can tell, my leg's kicking the wheel. And the flywheel underneath us keeps it going. Now the thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you get something caught on the center rod underneath, it will pull you in and be a very dangerous situation. So you need to make sure you don't have any loose articles of clothing, drawstring from a sweatshirt, loose drawstrings from your apron, or an untied shoe, because those are all dangerous situations because you have 150 pounds of concrete spinning around and around underneath you. So once you have that in mind, stop the wheel. As you can tell, this wheel is fairly clean, but I'm going to just make sure the wheel head is clean and just damp, okay, just like that. I'm going to take the clay that I just previously wedged, gonna eyeball it, throw it down on the wheel, and slap it down so I know it's stuck on. Now, when I was your age in high school, all we did was kick the wheel because we didn't have the motor. But these wheels have a motor. So I'm going to get the wheel going full speed with the motor. And our first step is to make sure the clay is attached to the wheel head. So what I'm doing is just pushing it down. And as you can tell, it's not on center. I purposely knocked it off so you can see what I'm talking about. This is off-centered clay. Now, the next step, we need to get this off-centered clay on center. Now, with my right hand, I'm going to tuck it into my body. My left hand, I'm going to push on the top. Right hand, pushed into my body. Left hand, pushed on the top. And when I have it on center, I gently release. As you can tell, this is on center because if I put my finger stationary on it, it touches all the way around without it moving back and forth. Once again, off center. Gently release. On center. Now, watch what happens when I get it on center, but release too quickly. So I'm tucking my arm, my right arm in, left arm pushing down. I feel that my clay is on center. Oh, I release fast and it goes off center because I'm releasing quickly on one side and not the other, and I'm leaving it off center again. So when you have it on center, make sure that you have that sweet spot where your hands aren't moving. Take a deep breath and sneak away. All right? So now we have it on center. And believe it or not, that skill right there will take a lot of practice. So don't get too discouraged if you can't get it on center right away. Okay? Now, once we have it on center, we need to open it up or drill a hole down the middle. Now, I am left-handed. You'll probably be right-handed. Some people use one thumb with the other hand supporting it. Some people use two thumbs. Some people use two index fingers. Everyone has a different way of doing it. But the key is that you want to drill the hole right down the middle so your hand's not moving around. And what I tell some people when they start off center, push it down or push it to the middle. Once you find the exact middle, make a little hole. Double check whether that's on center still. If it is, put a drop or two of water in there so your thumb glides with the clay. Take your thumb or your index finger or two thumbs, whichever you decide is easiest for you. Drill until that opening is about a half an inch from the wheel head. Now, if you're not sure what a half inch is, because some people go way too thick and some people go way too thin, but what you can do is stop the wheel with your pin tool Stick it down on the bottom, and that's how close I am to the bottom. Okay, so that's about a 1/2 inch. Get the wheel going again. Now for this step, for some reason, I like using my 2 middle fingers of my left hand. But like I said, everyone will find what works best for them. But what you're going to do is take your fingers and pull open to establish how wide your bottom is going to be. Again, when you get to that point, release gently so it stays on center. Now, beginner throwers most likely will end up with a bowl because they have a hard time pulling up and straight up, and it oftentimes ends as a bowl. Now, once we're at this point, now is where the magic occurs. Everyone likes this point because all of a sudden the clay just miraculously grows. But what we're doing is on the inside of the pot, the outside fingers are a little bit lower than the inside fingers. We're going to pinch a little clay and pull up. We're going to gently release pressure as we go up so it doesn't get too thin on top. And when we get to the top, we're going to release out, not release up. Release out, okay? Let me find my sponge. And I like to use the sponge on the inside of my throwing hand just to give me a little moisture if I need it, but my fingers are actually doing the work. So, the fingers on the outside are a little bit lower than the fingers on the inside. We pull up. When we get to the top, we're releasing pressure so it doesn't get too thin, and releasing out. Now what I tell people that have never thrown before, for the next time, or the next pull I should say, I make a little bit of a groove with the sponge. See how I'm doing that with the bottom? And can everyone see that groove right at the bottom? That tells my fingers where to grab onto. So we grab onto that. Again, my fingers on the inside are a little bit higher than the fingers on the outside. We get to the out or the top, and we gently release. One of my instructors a long time ago said a typical pot, not a very large vase, but a typical pot should need no more than 3 pulls to get all the clay up that you need to get up. So this is my 3rd pull. And on the 3rd pull, I'm being a lot more careful because it's getting thinner, and you really have to listen to your clay, get a feel for it. If you pinch too hard, it's going to come off in your fingers. If you don't pinch hard enough, you're not doing anything. Again, gently release at the top. Now, this is pretty even on top, but at this point, a lot of beginner potters will have the top going up and down, up and down. In order to trim that off, I'm going to take my pin tool, and I really don't need to trim much off of this pot because it's pretty it's not too bad. But I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to use that as a guide, take the pin tool until it hits my finger, and pull off. And that way, I know my top is nice and flat across the top of the pot. Now we're almost to the point. I'm going to shape it just a little bit here. Pull the bottom out just a little bit. All I'm doing is pushing it with my fingers on the inside and not much pressure on the outside. Okay, so we have our basic Pottery 1 bowl right now. Now, after throwing, you might have water on the inside. As the wheel is rotating round and round, you're going to take your sponge and get the excess water out of the bottom. Now, if you don't do this step, Your pot will act like a dried riverbed as it dries. And if you've ever seen a dried riverbed, as it dries, it cracks. So we want to have the excess moisture out of the bottom so it dries nice and evenly. If we have any extra clay here on the bottom by the wheel head, we'll take that off. And you might even have a ribbon of clay that needs to be trimmed off with the big loop tool. You can do that with the loop tool. I don't have that much clay down there, so I don't have to worry about that. Now, if you work on a wheel that has a bat, one of the masonite bats that you actually put on the wheel, all you need to do is take your cutoff wire, slice it through, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second, and then take the bat off and put it on the drawing rack. But if you're working on a wheel like this, this is the metal top, and next period there might be someone that needs this wheel. We need to get this pot off. So let me demonstrate how we get this pot off of the wheel without ruining the shape, because it's very soft right now. So first step, I'm going to take the wheel and give it a layer of water on the wheel head. I'm going to have a small bat in which I'm going to place this pot on. I'm going to put some water on the bat also, so it's nice and wet. The next step, I'm going to take my cutoff wire and very tightly going to cut all the way through. And then the second cut, see how it's sliding? We have a layer of water underneath this bowl, and this will allow us to just take 2 wide fingers at the very base of the pot and slide it right off onto the bat without even touching the side of the pot and destroying the shape of the pot. At this point, it's ready to go on the shelf, ready to dry, and on to the next step, which is trimming, which will be the next portion of this video. Thanks.